Okay, thank you and welcome. I have been asked to ask Ms. Calderon from Pillar to speak first because she has to leave. But other than that, I would like to call this meeting to order.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Calderon, and I'm here to pitch an idea that I have presented to Pillar, and they think it's a great idea, and we're asking for support. I want to create a girl empowering group called CAV, which is Chicas Against Violence. And the purpose of this group would be a community serving young women group whose mission is to empower each other and inspire the community with their passion for change. To attack social issues such as drug usage in our community, bullying, suicide, sexual violence that's going on in high schools, even middle schools. So my age range that I think would be a great target population would be 16 and up. I've planned out a couple of activities that I think would be very helpful for these young women, and that would be confidence workshops, because what is the best way to empower each other is a boost of confidence, really. And we see that through social media, a lot of shaming, and it's usually women against women, girls against girls. So I think it's great to attack that part first, so confidence, and then activities such as what can we do for the community, what can we do for women who have been, victims of violence. So seeking clothing donations together to donate to CASA, seeking food donations to create sack lunches for the homeless or the needy, because sometimes it's not just men that are out there who are homeless, it's women and children. And have a mini career day for them with women who are female leaders, teachers, judges, attorneys, business owners, nurse, PD, Homeland Security, you name it, any, women impactful occupations, that these girls can see that no matter what kind of background you come from, you can outcome it by empowering yourself and other women to make a change in our community. So I pitched this to Pillar, and I don't know if they want to add something that I missed.
Well, the reason why I felt it was important for Ms. Calderon to come here this afternoon and pitch this is because it really does connect to what we're trying to do here as a committee, to look for resources in the community that are accessible to people in need. And certainly with some of the core elements of her workshops are going to hit upon those triggers that put people at risk or expose them to drug use and alcohol use. So I wanted everybody to hopefully provide feedback in regards to her idea. Again, it's in the infancy stage, so now's the time for us to really have discussions about tweaking something or adding something. And one of the things that she didn't mention is we're always going to make sure that mental health professionals are available to assist her, because at any point if somebody identifies a need to want to talk to a mental health professional, that immediate linkage will exist. And beyond just addressing people's needs on a micro level, we also want to take the impact of her work to a macro level. How is it going to impact the whole community and hopefully make a difference in the lives of our women here?
I think it's great. That's exactly what we need, a peer-to-peer type of thing for young girls to experience.
And I know at the last meeting, I said you talked about the importance of that and how in your own personal plight you wish that had existed. Again, another connection that I made, which is why I asked Ms. Calderon to come here this afternoon.
Right, even you all going to the jails and talking to the girls there, so they don't think that they're throwaway. They think they're worthless already, so that would be a good practice to practice on them.
Yeah.
Some people that have been there 3, 5, 10, 20, or catch the ones that have been there for the first time and don't go back. Mine has been back 5 times. She's in rehab in Henderson right now, lockdown. So that's why I'm thinking that this is a very important thing, and like what she says, in there, a lot of them were lacking love from the start. Some of them just had rough childhoods, Some of them came from normal childhoods, but they had situations that happened, they were raped, whatever. They had drug dealers come and approach them at the age of 12, offering them Louis Vuitton purses and things like that, and then inviting them to go dance at parties and that men have, you know, so there's a lot, it's a deep thing, you know, so if you can catch them, you're young, you can relate. you know.
Right,
Yeah.
Give me the name again, Chicas what?
against violence.
Okay.
Is that a name for that program, Chicas?
Chicas Against Violence.
Against Violence?
I love that, Chicas Against Violence, yeah.
And again, this is a brainchild of Ms. Calderon. She just approached us at Pillar, and of course, we jumped on board. But at the very, really, at the very least, we're looking for community support because it is going to be a community project at the end of the day.
Although a lot of them don't have skills, a lot of them just feel that they're, no good for society anymore. What else do I have to lose? I'm
There's
going to
gonna be-
hell anyway.
And so there's going
That's
to be a
their
lot of
attitude.
vocational development and training as part of the mechanisms built into this. So I agree that's very important as well.
Yeah, so when they go off to rehab, we're paying all this rehab help, they come back to the same thing, so I think that's why we need to add this thing.
Right. Thank you very much.
My question is this program already off the ground?
No, again, it's in the infancy stage.
Is it? Okay.
Really, today we had the first meeting, and I just felt it was apropos to bring it to this table as well.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank
Just,
you.
do we have a contact numbers?
Yes, it could be through Pillar, 956-723-7457.
Part of the objectives of this commission was to have a itemized list of stakeholders and programs that exist.
Yes,
That
sir.
can actually provide assistance and support, and this one is gonna be added to.
Under the
that
Pillar
list.
umbrella, yes, sir.
So, we wanna include that complete, so whenever you're off the ground, welcome back, and then we can actually inject your services as we start moving on. Let me also say that in the last meeting, as the commission agreed, we're gonna be inviting stakeholders and to, basically for them to explain some of the programs that already exist and have them here to pick their brain as to suggestions and basically what is this going on. Last meeting on May 2nd, it was to invite Jail Commander Ponce Trevino. He declined the invitation because they're actually going through a state inspection at the county jail. But our next one on the list was Ms. Melissa Mojica, who is the director of the Juvenile Detention Center. And that's one of the topics that we spoke last meeting, how we can intercept juveniles that end up in the criminal system that are already maybe or show signs or symptoms of addiction to drugs and alcohol. Ms. Mojica is here present, and she was invited by the LPD, by the police department. And also, she will present describe what's the operation at the juvenile department, and maybe clarify and extend some of the doubts and questions that we might have, or the stakeholder, or the commissioners have. And after that, we can actually open the door for anything else as far as Mr. Kindigi's suggestions was to start getting involved with the population at the juvenile detention center and at the county jail to start working with those people that already show signs. So Ms. Mojica, I'll give you the floor, and after that, you'll be free to go after the Q&A
Before Ms. Mojica goes, I do have to excuse myself. Dr. Gonzalez has committed me to another meeting at 6, but again, you're in your home, as they say at the health department. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you very much.
And we have, I think, the same
We're going
meeting
to
to
the
go
same meeting,
to, so
yes.
thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Information I'd like to go over.
We'll see you.
Thank you, good presentation. Commissioner Garvin, please feel free, and I'll go over this information.
Ms. Mojica, before you start, one of the most important steps that we missed when we start the meeting is to the chairperson to ask for approval of the minutes, or you want to do that, then we'll go for that.
I guess we should follow the agenda, right?
Yes.
So, number 2 on the agenda is approval of minutes from May 2nd, and it was emailed to us yesterday.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Now go ahead, Ms. Mojica.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to, or inviting me and allowing me to be present. What I passed out to you, well, again, let me back. It's the end of the day, so so please forgive me, but anyway. Melissa Mojica, I'm actually referred to as the Chief Juvenile Probation Officer in Webb County. I am Executive Director for the Webb County Youth Bench. We're situated out on 359, where I have administrative offices that hold probation officers that do supervision of children that have been arrested or referred by law enforcement. I also have a juvenile detention center, which is a jail for juveniles. And that age group, our jurisdiction goes from 10 to 17. And I also have an alternative school referred to as the Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program, the JJAEP. That is for students that have been expelled from the regular home campus, but cannot be without an education, and so we serve that purpose. As I understood from Torres, that, and I don't even know your rank anymore, Chief, Assistant Chief Torres, was that, well, we grew up together, basically, up the ranks, and so I congratulate him also. But anyway, it was kind of to give you a little, what we do, what we're about. Obviously, places like mine need to exist for those kids that get themselves involved in a criminal offense. And what I've shared with you is a 10-year report of the number of referrals, the number of children that have been arrested, and the type of offenses that they're engaged in. And one thing that screams out, and I know because of this committee, is that a lot of crimes are because of the drug and alcohol involvement. And if you look at, obviously the first slide, I guess, that you have, it's really a PowerPoint. Look at our numbers. We started back in 06, 2050, and we're down to 1280. Well, that looks real good. It means we're impacting crime. We're doing something. That looks really good. But one is one too many. And these kids touch too much of our daily life by burglarizing, fighting, by other violent offenses, being a nuisances in the school grounds, drug possessions. And if you follow under the felony offenses, you'll see that our biggest, referral, so to speak, is assaultive in nature. These kids are not afraid to engage in physical confrontations. And then you go to the misdemeanor offenses, and you also notice that hand in hand you've got assaultive offenses, plus you've got drug offenses that are really high as compared to the other categories. And an assumption, I suppose, is that they're intertwined. Because a kid is charged with a burglary doesn't mean that he's not using drugs. But that's not his primary referral. But through the process of assessments, of us working with them, we get to find out these things about them, and obviously try to bring in resources that would help alleviate or stop the criminal behavior, and or take more intrusive measures such as a court, a conviction, so to speak, or even a removal from the home, because the home is not the best environment for them at a particular time. Look at the runaway, and I know Pillars was here, we're talking about, the girls, and look at your runaway category, like 200 kids out there that leave their homes. And that's a big number, because it involves girls, it involves them being with maybe other males, and what we've come to find out, a lot of prostitution, a lot of drug use, a lot of prostitution. And then the troublesome age seems to start, at least for us, at the age of 14 up. And you see those numbers, 200, 300. And most of them are at that cusp of becoming adults. at 16 and 17 years of age. And so, in terms of numbers, although I can tell you there's a reduction in crime, there's a reduction in referrals, it is still a significant number. It's a significant challenge to the community and to the department who work with these kids when resources are so limited. And I say that because we depend a lot on Pillar, we depend a lot on SCAN, on private providers to come in and provide much needed parenting, social skills, character education. That because we don't have that many resources within the community, I've had to certify some of my staff as facilitators for other type of programs, anger management. We have what's called the Girls Circle, kind of what they're talking about, but of course I have to deal with what is my population. I cannot open it up to the public, I can only address those kids that come before us. And they're on the right track. You know, a lot of these girls need some place to just go and talk about girl issues, the dating, the self-esteem, the physical contact with their male counterparts, acceptable behaviors, things of that nature. So that program has also been, it's small, again, because girls, proportionately, they're a smaller group for us, but we also note the significance that groups like that play, and that you try to hope that they're gonna give them enough skill to maybe, stop their antisocial behavior and or at least come to understand why they do the things they do. Pretty much, I suppose we need to take a hard look at the fact that this community, I don't believe is prepared with this drug and alcohol. And the mental health issues that come along with it, they're all intertwined. And it's sad, but we only have, if I'm not mistaken, the last number I heard was like a 1.something9 psychiatrists. In other words, one that deals with adolescents. And that's unacceptable for this community. And I know there was a push a couple of years back where they wanted in fact, the county attorney's office wanted to hook up with UT Health Science to draw residents to come and do their residency here so that we would have available interns, counselors of that nature to provide those services for these families. And whatever, it didn't happen, but I thought that was a really great idea to bring those professionals because our community doesn't hold the specializations, unfortunately. As at the Youth Village, we're going to embark on building a drug rehab center for adolescents. Right now it's targeted for males, but construction hasn't started, but it's targeted for males with the option to open up for girls in the future. Right now it's targeted, I believe, for 16 males. And it's going to be pretty much open to the community. In other words, it's not going to happen just through a court order. It could actually be through families seeking help, and it will be an inpatient. So I believe I think SCAN was poised to provide the professionals to do the counseling and all that needs to get done. But we're a long ways off, obviously, maybe a year from then. But that drug rehab is real necessary, obviously, for the kids, and it's for the adults. You mentioned something about your
I've been struggling with my daughter since she was 16.
Who's 16?
So I that's why I say it's just a waste of our taxpayer dollars to be sending them all off and for her to go 5 times wherever, come back to the same thing because there's no transition living. And that's my only concern, that we left those words out. We don't have any wording here in these papers, and my mistake not to say something sooner regarding that we need to get transition living here even before detox, even before rehab, because you all have money laid out for my daughter for 6 months to come back here. This is gonna be her 5th time, so there's more of my daughters out there, so
Sure.
it's a revolving door, so we need to work on transition living, I think, before anything else.
That's part of a component, obviously, but I also think you need it for the adults.
Oh, yeah, but she's an adult now, she's
Yeah.
20, she's
So she
25.
graduated potentially, or can,
She
in
got,
other
she got,
kids.
she kept getting worse and worse in jail, meeting more people in jail, getting more ideas, and her connection, then she came out on the front page, and, you know, so she got more customers, and so our community is not helping these people, they're making them worse.
And you know, and I don't think it's the fact that that the community won't step up. I think once they understand and they see, I think they will step up. But a lot of, like in our case, you know, a lot of these records are private. Individual records are private information. Something like this, obviously it's not private information, but until you attach a face to it, until you attach, you know, the emotion of an actual experience that people like yourself are willing to talk about it, I think it'll change, you know, but we gotta get there. We have to get there. And I know that through our efforts, again, it's, you know, it's curtailed because it only deals with those kids that are court, you know, court involved, et cetera. We do try, we have what's called walk-in service, and pretty much it's just, you know, somebody coming in and for us to guide them, you go here, go there, if we don't have any legal hold on them. But in again, when you look at the numbers, oh, that's great, crime's down. But it isn't. Maybe kids are not getting caught, it could be that, they're getting more astute as to what's going on. The schools came out with being able to give out drug kits, you know, at school, so that kind of tempered some of the behaviors because, you know, kids were afraid they're gonna get caught right away.
They get wise too, after so many ODs and they almost die, they know how much to take now,
Yeah.
you know, so.
And that's just, they know more than us.
They
They
do.
know more than the parents. And so I think the idea is to get started with, you know, maybe awareness for the parents. Years and years ago, back, well, I don't even know if any of you are that old, but Julio Garcia used to be our district attorney, many years ago. And he decided to take on this drug issue back then, so we're talking early 80s. And he created like a task force. And it involved police, it involved personnel from my office, it involved the judges. And all these people went to we went to churches, church halls, spoke to families, PTA meetings. You know, we went to little surrounding communities to talk to them about this whole thing about the drugs. So that was just, you know, starting to come up. You had the spray paint, the inhalant, all of that was going on. And from that, I think a lot of people were very surprised at how much kids knew that they didn't know. And because I was at one of those hall meetings, and at that time, we had a display board, you know, the marijuana and things of that nature. And it was like a 6-year-old, he was like, oh, look, you know, that's what, you know, like my older brother has in his room under the bed. You know, the parent was, well, you know, don't say anything or don't say anything anymore, but just, they didn't recognize, they didn't understand. Well, now we're beyond marijuana. We're looking at cocaine, we're looking at pills, we're looking at mixtures,
Heroin.
heroin. And right now, we have kids at this age group that are heroin addicts. And you know, I say this very lightly, but you know, it's not, we're glad we're not that many. They're still stuck on the marijuana and the cocaine, maybe in some pills. But these IV users are very dangerous. Well, I mean, they're all dangerous.
There's just too many that have died already. So my daughter's just been saved too many times.
Somebody made an association with, in a particular year, maybe about 5 years back, so many people died of overdoses. But somebody spoke and they said, I actually believe those to be suicides. They're not accidental overdoses.
No.
They're suicides. By their own hand, yes, it's accidental, but they're suicides. So we have a mental health issue that just, you know, exemplifies so much more that mental health component that, again, like Puerto Region is overwhelmed. You know, we just don't have that expertise. And I don't know, you know, at the end of the day, what you all, you know, your goals are, the recommendations to City Council, but I think those areas, need a lot of investment, mental health, the substance abuse, the
I was always stuck in the middle because, oh, no, we can't take her with MR because she's in drugs, you gotta take care of, she's dual diagnosis, take care of that. And so every time I thought we were gonna go, I had a block, you know, so. there
And I
was-
think the beautiful thing about Border Region, I think they've evolved and now
They've
they
evolved a
understand,
lot.
they understand that the importance of co-occurring. So treating the mental health part and the substance concurrently, and so.
but they're overwhelmed.
Yes, we are. I think we served about 8,000 already. We are definitely underfunded, so we're constantly, as a matter of fact, this year, one of our missions is to submit grants to be able to provide more services or to enhance the services that we currently have, to make sure that we have the proper qualifications and expertise and the trainings, and but we really are working.
Do you still have one psychiatrist? Because,
Well, they contract with several psychiatrists,
Oh, okay, so
actually.
when
The
we
thing
went-
is, they're not local, so a lot of it is through telemedicine, and, you know, it works, but at the same time, it'd be nice to have local,
in-house,
in-house, but
you know.
What is the name of your program, or your?
it's Border Region
That's
Behavioral
Border
Health.
Region? You're with Border Region?
Yes, sir.
Are you with the CAPS unit or?
No, I'm with the adult unit, and I oversee the substance use department.
Because CAPS obviously is the one we deal with because of the children.
But I will tell you, we've just implemented a cognitive life skills program. We currently don't have any funding for it, we're having a charge for it, but I will tell you that we have over 17 topics, which pretty much address all of these.
That's great.
And I think I emailed your Ms. Rodriguez.
It's our
Yes.
program.
So I'm supposed to be meeting with her because we're supposed to be providing that service to not only Webb, but 13 other counties.
Yeah, we're one of the main referral providers to them
Yes.
because, you know, obviously we see that. And in fact, we have one of your workers housed at our
Oh,
facility because these kids will go into crisis, you know, suicide outcries and things of that nature. And so we felt it strong enough that they needed to be there, and so we have a co-op with them. But you know, at the end of the day, it always boils down to money. And grants are great, but grants are very specific also. And I know that the funding sources for even mental health and substance abuse, they don't want the relapse, but relapse is a reality.
Yeah.
It is a reality, it's gonna happen.
Especially
It's how
without
you react to it.
especially without transition,
Right.
without transition living or life skills after care,
I'm
rehab.
not sure about transition because you know, we could be talking about two different things and I'm not really sure, but I think more about independent living skills.
That's what I'm talking, transition living so that they can learn how to be back in society and how to develop skills to work and do stuff like that. Because you go back home, you go back to your friends, so if it's court ordered that after you get out of rehab, you go to transition living or sober house living, where they teach you, you know, life skills,
Exactly.
you know, but right now there is
It's not, in our field, it's referred to as aftercare, where we have
aftercare,
to,
right.
you know, track, when they're coming back from placement, we have to track them so many months. and
She's
provide
never
this
been
for-
tracked and she's here again, you know.
And, well, you said she was an adult now, right?
She's
with
now,
me?
she's been with you, I know
Okay.
your name. You don't know me because I know many of the parents that were there, but she was there, then there. She graduated through the system, not through the LISD system, unfortunately, or UISD.
Either one of those. But, I mean, yeah, so I think those are great programs, and some, you know, even vocational skills, I know they say that's out of the question now, but really, some of our kids
They
are
need
meant
it.
to be trained in grade
In
school.
fact, my husband, they own a company and they were saying they don't have any skilled labor, they have to bring them in from other places, you know, because they don't have skills.
It's something that really,
Even us, we don't have people to hire that has the skills that you need, welders, plumbers.
and that's, you know, basic labor, and then you've got professionals that we don't have,
Tampoco
you know,
either.
We're pretty challenged, I guess, you know, to tackle these problems, but I don't wanna take a lot of your time, I just, you know, wanted to give you a little overview of what we do, what we try to do. You know, no, we're not gonna be successful, but we certainly try.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever you feel we can do or help, we're certainly willing to come to the table at whatever point.
Ms. Malika, real quick question, the age group that you see is what age?
10 to 17.
And I just, out of curiosity, between, I guess, how many times do you see these kids coming in after they've been with you one time? Because I think that that's what's important. I think there's been a lot within the last couple of meetings where it's, everybody's saying that there isn't any help. But I'm just curious to know, how many times are they coming back that you have the opportunity to help but don't have either the sources or the resources to be able to assist? So I'm just kind of curious, do you all follow up on how many times these children have been going into the system again and that you can't, they can't get help, or there's something they're not able to graduate, or they're not able to get out of the problem, that you still see them going through the problem?
We do keep track of how many children actually, what we call unique children versus a number of referrals, because it could be, I'm responsible for 5, but I'm one unique child. So and I didn't bring that with me, but the research holds steady that it's what they refer to as a chronic 8%. Chronic 8% are your repeaters that come back. So I'm not sure what my math would be here at 1,200, but I would assume it's,
Of those 1,200s, how many were repeats like my daughter?
Well, like the 8% of that.
8, just 8? I would think more. I mean, all her friends are.
8%, not,
Yeah.
so of 1,200, I would imagine that's about 80
A little bit
kids.
over it.
Yeah.
Basically, the main programs that really cause a positive impact, what I've seen in other cities is the target and identification and target the habitual or repeat offenders that are already hooked to substance abuse and community outreach by reaching out to organizations. We've talked about that before, so Ms. Rodriguez here has a very good question. And within your system, once you get a referral for a burglary or a fight or anything else, is there a system or that you check mark or an interview where this kid is being identified as already a potential user or a habitual user, or is already involved, or is there?
Part of our screening, when they come in the door, we have to do a gender identification screening. We have to do substance abuse, a suicide risk, and mental health evaluate. Their assessments, because it's done in-house. And depending on those scores, so to speak, it triggers actions. Okay, you scored high on suicide, I need to get you to a mental health. You scored high on a medical issue, then I need to get you to a physician. And all of that, I mean, that's in a jail. Surprisingly so, that responsibility has been relegated or delegated to a jail system.
And specifically when some kid scores high on drug use or alcohol use, what is the actual specific referral that you send them to, or you refer them to?
What it'll trigger, number one, is the drug screen, a drug screen that'll tell us in ours, because there's several out there, drug kits. They'll test for 6 substances, 5 substances, the most common, we test for 10. Okay, then from there we have using the same sample, urine sample, we send it to a lab and we identify the threshold. So that then the next time they're drug tested, we can tell from the thresholds whether the usage has been reduced or gone up. But the support system is scanned for the drug counseling. We also have a judicial program where they have the drug court. You have the drug court out of the 406 with Judge Oscar Hale that does with the adults, very, very successful program. And then the juvenile instituted one, the juvenile courts did. And so that also requires judicial intervention where they're monitoring these kids every 2 weeks, with an appearance with the judge. Are you doing any better? What are the drug tests telling you? Hearing from the parents, has the behavior changed? And it requires more frequent monitoring by our office contacts, and it also, the frequency of the drug testing. It also requires them to do community service. All our kids are required to do community service, but then these also. And so, you know, we try to get them into the professional help that they need. Unfortunately, I don't have a licensed counselor, chemical dependency counselor on staff, and so I have to go to, for instance, SCAN. SCAN does their own assessment, and they give us a recommendation of whether the child is a user, an abuser, or a dependent, an addict. And from there, they can refer to programs within their system, or we send them out of town to other facilities that provide substance abuse.
You actually answered the question, because, you know, some of the questions here in the past meetings is, what is it the jails or detention centers are doing when they identify someone as a user or abuser? And, you know, once you, through your screening, you identify someone, you refer them to the existing programs that we got.
Yes.
Whether they're still lacking funding and personnel, there's still something's being done at least
Yes.
to refer them and get them into, you know, some help. That's it.
And that, of course, is assuming the kids take advantage of it. The kids don't want to, or the parents are in denial.
Yes, that's
That's a whole other
I was
wall.
about to
course,
ask that,
of course.
how involved are the parents with all of this?
I would say we find very few parents that are willing to get very involved, because it does take time and parents work. They can't take time off, and the kids are available only certain times of the day because of school and things of that nature, but it's really difficult. A lot of the parents have this defeatist attitude. Well, you know, they don't think it's gonna get better. They already dealt with the same situation, maybe with an older sibling, a relative. Nothing works, and so they don't wanna try. And I guess they don't wanna be disappointed, and so it's really left up to the kid, but the kid needs parental support. That's always important.
Anything else?
You know, I wanted to just comment, my name is Gabriela, for people that may not know me, Gabriela Perez from SCAN. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the services. I know we work together with you. I know Kike Manrique is the one that oversees the adolescent programs, and I know that we do the screening. But I just wanted to mention that definitely this is a wonderful opportunity to, I know you mentioned something about us at some point having the opportunity to talk about the services that we provide. I think all of us being here in the table, we can really be able to share. I think SCAN is providing a lot of the services, especially in terms of youth. I don't know if you're aware, but we actually have a peer support program that's funded by the state. And so we link all the clients, all the adolescents to this peer support. And we have individuals, young individuals that are in recovery, because one of the, like as you were mentioning, I think it's really important that aftercare part and linking many of the individuals to that part, because it is really challenging out there. And if you have peer recovery coaches, actually, I don't know if you're aware, but right now, there's a bill going on where now Medicaid is gonna be able to pay peer specialists. There's a certification that's going on in the state. So, at least in terms of adolescents, we have that program. And we have, of course, residential and outpatient programs as well. But certainly, I think what is really important, and I know some of us, we work and collaborate, and I think the more we know about all the services that are provided with all, stakeholders represented, I think it's gonna be very important to kind of be able to know about these services, and then of course, look at the needs that are out there and in some way, work together towards that.
Thank you very much. You were invited by Dr. Gonzalez, you were a stakeholder.
We're not stakeholders, but we were invited, and Ms. Dabdu asked me to come here.
Yes, you were
So
next on the agenda, because
really?
once we were talking to the detention center,
Okay,
the next one was to have SCAN to describe what's at
absolutely,
hand.
we can do that, for sure.
Because this commission needs to know
Mm-hmm.
from, per se,
Yes.
from the horse's mouth, like what is in existence in our
Exactly.
society and our community,
Mm-hmm.
so we can actually brainstorm
Mm-hmm.
and assist programs
Exactly.
and stuff like that. So what is your name again?
Gabriela Perez.
Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Monica,
Thank
do you have a question?
No, I just need to comment on this last, we had Well, I want to thank Border Region. I'm a DWI instructor. I had a young man that, actually the mom contacted us. We just came from doing a victim impact panel. So she contacted and she was having problems with her son. And he was not a young man, and he went back to consuming and using alcohol. So out of desperation, she called and said, look, I cannot promise anything. So I called Water Region Gracie, and she was able to help him out. So the help is there, but Water Region was able to help him, and she called me and she's satisfied. So this commission is doing something. I think this is doing something. There's one person that got help without all the waiting and all the good stuff.
Those testimonials are very important because it gives a balance in what we do have. And of course, we always hear either bad news or not so good news type of thing, but whenever we hear a success story, it's very important to share it nonetheless because, as the commission mission here is to improve our existing services. And not only in funding and personnel, but also connect the dots as we have in the prior meetings, identify organizations, whether they might be talking to each other, collaborating, working shoulder to shoulder, and start making a common front to this, and continue working towards this. Thank you, Mr. Makana.
Okay, we continue with item number 5, discussion and possible action, results of survey on the goals by the commission, and the survey results are here on this page. And everyone on the commission has seen them. We have our goals, and of course everyone agreed that everything on our goals was needed, that we needed to do it, and that we could set the deadline of next year in June. So we have 1 year to try to get all of these proposals together and share with all of our stakeholders and try to get something to where we can present to the city as to what's out there, what we need, how much is needed, and how much we've been working together from these meetings. Because as he was mentioning, we're already getting results. We also had some people that were nominated and ended up being in charge of some part of the committee. And it was Ms. Alguindegui, Mr. Moncado, and Mr. Thompson. Mr. Moncada. And so, you three, of course, I'll be willing to help. I'm sure Colleen, Mr. Lozano, those of us who are not appointed to any of these will help.
Can I appoint you?
Sure.
Okay. I think I'll be one at a time. Okay. We can co-do it or something.
Yes. So then, go over it again for when Dr. Gonzalez does come back, and Mr. Thompson, because he had a court case today, so he couldn't be here. It's a night court, I think. And we were supposed to discuss the intern to assist with statistics and cost evaluation. The intern was, one would be coming from TAMIU, and the other one was given to us or submitted at WestCare.
Yes,
Right.
I actually sent an email to Dr. Gonzalez and asked him if I could bring the student, but I never got a response, so.
Well, I think because he was going to be out of town.
Yeah, well, now I see, but I still have that intern, she will, they will, actually, there's 3 of them.
Good.
So we
They
can.
will be working with us.
You can let us know exactly what you need,
Mhm.
and then we can assign them any research we need.
Perfect.
On behalf of this committee. And then, of course, the deadlines that y'all meet,
Mhm.
so that we could meet those deadlines and piece together anything that y'all might need for the purpose of putting this together for the city. They will be with WestCare for 3 months,
Okay.
between here and August.
June, July, and August.
Yes, and
All right.
they complete their internship with us in August.
So we need to call Dr. Gonzalez as soon as possible.
Yes, on the meeting notes, I think that it says already that we need to sit down on a separate meeting with those interns. Dr. Gonzalez and his staff will
Right,
actually give them, homework and direction
but,
or start, compiling information and data so we can, bring this out to the
Right.
ground, so
So we need to get to him as soon as possible, because if they're only here 3 months.
yeah,
nonetheless, yes.
it's a short time frame. I mean, I have already assigned them some other projects. We're doing also grant writing, with Westcare.
Okay.
So, based on what I have available is what I can assign them.
Mhm.
And so, as soon as we can get that information, the better for us, so that we can go ahead and make those assignments. Because I have
Do you
to,
want to talk to him, email him, or should
Yes,
I?
we'll arrange for a
Okay.
face-to-face. So, that email that you sent Dr. Gonzalez, what was this? Do you remember?
well, I sent it to, copy to everybody here,
Okay.
asking y'all if it would be okay to bring my intern today. But I guess,
I
I
didn't
didn't
get
get
no,
it.
I saw a note somewhere that Dr. Gonzalez wishes to meet him face-to-face on the side meeting so we can have a give him direction.
Okay.
And what is needed, because it's important to see them here, but it'll be during the process, maybe an intro to the commission,
sure,
but tasking them to start working is more important. And then maybe next meeting, coming over, say hi to everybody and
Sure.
and everything
Sure.
else.
and if
We'll
y'all
move
need
forward.
start giving us direction, like you said, it was gonna be
Yes.
with Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes,
We could go ahead and meet
and yeah,
separately.
once we set that direction for them, start compiling data, so,
We don't wanna lose a whole month.
No.
No, of course not.
Okay, that's great.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
ask you?
Yes.
Can we go ahead and add to the agenda, you know how we're doing research on how much it would cost to, bring in a detox, bring in a rehab, and transition living was left out. Can we add it to it
Okay.
On this,
Definitely,
whatever
we-
to
the
find
committee.
out about
Yeah.
that? Because that's really the only reason I'm here.
Transition living sober houses, right?
Sober housing, yeah.
And I know we discussed it in the last meeting briefly,
Yeah.
that was one component that was left out.
That was left out and we needed to include it.
And we need to remind him because he has so much on his plate.
Yeah.
Cost of transition housing and what else?
That's the sober living,
The
because-
aftercare.
The aftercare,
Aftercare.
because we're doing research on detox and on rehab, but nothing on aftercare, which is, you all
Okay.
probably have a bunch of people out right now and they're gonna be coming back. So I think that's the first one that we should do.
Out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm making a note of that,
Because-
so it'll be in the,
Unfortunately, like my daughter, they're detoxing in jail,
Mhm.
so we do kind of have not a formal detox, but they're either detoxing in jail or in the hospital. But when they're coming back, we're risking all that money to go down the drain as it has with my daughter 4 other times.
would that be similar to some sort of a halfway house?
Yes,
Kind of
except
Or
it
they-
teaches you skills and
That they report on a daily basis, but not exactly residing 24/7
they
there, or
have
is
to
it?
reside there
Yes,
24/7.
yes.
They have
have
to,
to stay?
it's residential,
Okay.
court order after rehab.
But aren't all residentials and detox facilities, once you're an adult, you can walk out of there
Yeah.
anytime you want?
Unless you're court ordered.
Unless you're court ordered.
That's what I'm talking
Yes.
about. My
And
daughter.
even at that.
They
Even
can
at
still
that.
walk
Oh,
out, even if
Oh,
they're
yeah,
court
you can
ordered.
walk out, but I mean, like, right now, she's
Exactly.
locked down. She's right
Yes.
now in lockdown rehab. So, she could have, like, in Uvalde, she was locked down, but they took her to McDonald's to work and back.
Yeah.
And so she started getting better.
Everybody has a different risk assessment nonetheless, some
Right.
people are more compliant than others. So, I'm pretty sure
She's got-
at the end of the game, somebody can be trusted a little bit more than other ones, or more supervision, or a strict supervision on others. But nonetheless, it's at the, using the example of county jail, talking to the commanders out there, they still do have problems that people, for one way or another, they smuggle drugs in there with all the safeguards that exist. They still getting in there because there's the underground and the black market out there nonetheless. But I'll put that for the interest, one of the topics to start researching for this.
Thank you.
And bring it up to Dr.
They end up detoxing in jail with people who are in there for really bad stuff, and instead of using the jail specifically to house, you know, someone who committed a crime, you're using it to
At
detox somebody.
Because see, they won't allow you to rehab unless you've been in detox.
Yeah.
So
Well, they
where-
send you to Corpus.
Well, where do you go detox, you know?
Yeah.
And then you can leave. So she left Corpus, Charlie's place, trying to detox, and she got lost in Corpus for a few days, so, you know, so she's been, well, like, because we were talking about dual diagnosis, one of her dual diagnoses is oppositional defiance disorder.
Exactly.
So, you know, ADD, depression, anxiety, you know.
It's a challenging, you know, treatment so for
And
those
why
persons.
her and not the other two, I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we will make sure to add that, and I will email him and sort of like, and just in case, this is what we discussed, and please make sure that it's added to the next agenda, so that if we have to vote as a board, we do that
And
openly, and then we've done it legally,
right,
right?
included in there, right.
Okay. So
Thank
then,
you.
let's continue then with membership. I don't know what he had, and Mr. Sanchez is gone, to say about membership, because we still don't have the members, the number of members that are on the council. We've never had, what, 7? We've never had 7.
Yes, I think the rules calls for 3 absences on one of the commissions.
So then Ms. Roby is out.
It's one of those things,
She's never been,
I'm
I've
not
never
sure
seen her.
where the rest of the commission or the committee here is right now. And I don't even know who appointed her,
No, I don't know.
but
Who appointed her?
Dr. Gonzalez will reach out to that councilman
She's not appointed to
Yes.
this. What is she?
and,
The council.
and do a
appointed her to
replacement,
this.
because if it's 3 or more on excuse,
City council.
as per the rules is, we have to find a replacement of it.
Right.
Well-
Nonetheless, that information is somewhere out there, I'll just move on that one, unless the commission
Yes.
wants to vote today to officially remove her from the commission and then reach out to that councilman.
Do we have that power, or would it be Dr. Gonzalez? I know she hasn't been here more than 3 times.
I've never seen her one
No,
time.
she has not appeared,
Never.
one single one.
So
Never.
that name is just taking up space where someone else who might be interested would be showing up.
Well, let me pencil that in, to reach out to the councilman to replace or reappoint somebody else.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from her, kind of, maybe there's something going on, we don't know. I don't know.
But if she's too busy, she can't come.
Yeah, definitely, but
Miss
At
Rodney-
least an answer by email.
She's never responded and she's never attended, so I've never seen her, I don't know who
So
she
to me,
is.
it seems like someone was appointed without being asked.
Yes, could have
I don't
been.
know. I don't know.
well, it's either District 1, 2, or 8.
Okay.
Those are the vacant ones that I have.
1, 2, or 8?
Okay. Well,
Actually, Colleen, where did you come under? You
The
came under the
mayor.
mayor, right? Yeah, so it's 1, 2, or 8.
so then it doesn't matter. We need to get those 3 people in.
I was under the impression that she replied to this last email,
Did
but
she?
I think if anything, just approaching her once more or asking the council to go ahead and remove her and replace her, if it does affect the quorum.
Yes, because it does.
And I know her personally, so she probably will say, you know what, I'm gonna have to recuse, apologies that I've done. Her, plate was full and stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
that's probably what
right.
happened.
We'll move forward with it, but having someone like that in the roster and not having
Hurts.
an active member that represents that district at least, or the
Yeah.
entire city council is it's a disservice for the rest of us.
Do the members need to be a resident of what county or of the district?
Definitely is a resident of at least the district of the councilman, but that's what I'm not sure about what happened here, but every councilman reaches out in person. I'm not sure
Okay,
whether it has to be a resident on that, but it's an appointee or a nomination basically, and it has to be approved by council.
Technically, it's
So-
supposed to be of the district, but there's a lot of people that have not been appointed because of the district.
Exactly.
Well, 'cause I know a lot of people who are interested and heard of what we're doing, but they're not
Yeah.
local, but they'd be more than happy to
Yeah.
pull their weight.
The national landscape, usually the volunteerism is down, so,
Right.
Yeah.
maybe a councilman says, okay, you wanna serve over here, and, everybody says, not right now, I'm busy. So they move away from the district to see who else wants to step up to the plate and, you know, make a difference in our community. But I'll put Ms. Robbie here on the table, the issue here. Maybe Dr. Gonzalez will reach out to her and actually pick her brains if you want us to serve. We can, you know, ask the commission to reconsider, and because it's already 3, and rules are rules. So we can, you know, actually help in the
Yes.
situation. And try to fill those vacancies. Luzano, you said there's 2 more, right? 2 more vacancies?
Yes, sir. It was 1, 2, and 8 from the last list that I was provided.
Yes. I have a list somewhere here, but I didn't update it at the last minute.
The only name that's not in there is Colleen. I haven't.
The city website reflects otherwise.
Yes.
They actually have all but 1 position filled. But that's a council city question that you have to
Okay.
ask.
Yeah, we'll refresh.
Yes, sir.
And then the next meeting we'll do an updated list and we'll move forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Now, who's supposed to update us on the synthetic cannabis?
We're gonna table that one because Dr. Gonzalez heard through his channels of communication with other agencies and across the nation. And I'm gonna open, just kind of a point of discussion here, that the synthetic, what we call marijuana, but what we used to call, what else do we call it?
Spice or something.
Spice and all that, that they sell.
K2.
As bath
Yeah,
salts
K2
and
is what I meant.
K2s and all that. It's being mixed with other chemicals nowadays that is causing almost immediately a reaction to a person. It's actually putting people in hospitals or worse. So he was gonna give us an update that I know of in Laredo. We have not had one yet. But what he heard in other communities is people buy it, light up, and 2 steps over, boom, comes out. And, you know, ambulances are being overtasked and stuff like that in other communities. So, you know, give the commission here a heads up. That is what's trending somewhere else.
One of the clients that I have mentioned to me that his cousin from Rio Bravo had overdosed on K2. One of the questions that I've always had is, have y'all ever noticed that overdoses and deaths never get reported?
What's that?
Overdoses and deaths never get reported. People who die
Where?
from overdoses.
In the news, you mean?
You never see them in the newspaper, you never see, oh, person
It's,
found
it's
overdose.
like suicide. It's a, you know, one of those matters that are not publicized by the news media.
That's the attempt to jump off.
Sometimes you're gonna see a young
Yeah.
person on the obituaries, and you're not gonna know how they passed on, whether by accident, car accident, suicide even, or overdose.
Right.
You know, those questions are not a public arena type of discussions. But Dr. Gonzalez did provide the past 5 years, the number of deaths and the ages and how this is happening. So the number of overdoses that the hospital receives, they're actually reported. So there is a data bank of those. But public media,
Public doesn't.
public media, as per, you know, today we had an overdose yesterday and this and that. It's just
No, but I
very,
think,
very-
I personally think it would be an advantage for people, hey, you know, wake up. People are dying.
Well, as Mr. Lozano
Well-
said, there was someone who jumped off 359, no?
Yeah, but nonetheless, you know, the media did report 165 deaths in the past 5 years. There's no names to it, but the statisticals is a public information. So there, you know, there is such a information out in the public. Now you wanna know, well, we wanna know every week, every day, or whatever else. The obituaries usually show, but do not.
Don't ever say.
Just yesterday, we had a 26-year-old that committed suicide. And you're not gonna see that in the news or on the newspaper. You might see it in 3, 4, 5 days, a 26-year-old in the obituaries, but you're not gonna see what happened. Of course, people wonder, and, you know, information trickles out, you know, family and friends talk about it. It's not a public information.
Through the vital statistics here at the health department, we can access that information. We at Taylor, I do have that information as far as how many suicides, their gender, their age,
Yes.
how they died. You know, was it gun, was it hanging, did they jump out of a bridge? So
Yes.
that information does exist, and I don't
But
mind, I don't mind sharing that with you all.
Isn't there also some research in terms of how there has to be, you have to be really careful in terms of putting in the media how people committed suicide and so forth? I don't know if you're aware of any of
And I can
them.
always see the yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just
No
gonna
quiero
repeat
decir
this.
yes, you know, there's like, part of it is that, but there is a certain research going on in terms of just being very careful in terms of how.
Like with Kate Spade, that they say she hung herself.
Well, those are celebrities. There's no way you're gonna, you know,
Yeah.
censor that news,
No.
but I'm just gonna repeat that, you know, what you're saying here is the statistical data, it is public information.
Yeah.
The number and the ages
It's
and
just the
gender.
media, right?
It's just not the media,
But
it's not available,
when you wanna
unless the
know
media
on a
wants
daily
it.
Ethics in
basis,
terms of that.
or
Yeah.
school, you know, schools affected, or families, or last
No.
names, et cetera.
What the suicide note
Any-
said.
Any private.
No,
Right,
no, no,
we don't know
I
that
think
yet.
that for the purpose
the
of, the reason I
information,
was mentioning that is because it can act as a deterrent for people starting to use. And I had one client sitting in front of me one day, and we were having a discussion, and I asked, so, what is your drug of choice, and what age did you start? And when she told me 6 years old, I practically fell off my chair, and I said, how, why, how? I couldn't understand that. And she mentioned, well, my parents were addicts, and
We left
you
it
know,
lying
they would
around.
give it to me so that I could
Oh, okay, they were crazy again.
get out of the way.
Exactly.
So, I personally have seen several of my clients overdose, and it's never reported. I mean, you can tell them, hey, you know, there's been a lot of overdoses and this and that, but we don't have, you know, kind of like.
We have, like, I don't know, but I belong to a group, Al-Anon, and Al-Anon is a group for people that have loved ones that are addicts or alcoholics or whatever. And that's where you find out, a lot of them, when I initially started, it was like husbands and wives, and then all of a sudden, it's only parents. That's what I'm finding, we're all parents. Parents of adults where their children are 40s and 50s, and parents of kids that are 12, 13, 17. And that's the majority of the people in this Al-Anon group. It's a support group for addicts.
So I'm glad that you were talking about that, because, you know, maybe that'll be the door opening to a recommendation to the city council to provide a public forum for people and advocates to say their story.
Yeah.
You know, this is what happened to me, I just want somebody, you know, age group or not to go through this.
Yeah,
And I'm here to tell you, otherwise I would be 6 feet under.
right.
You know, public forum, for the same purpose that you said, you know, try to prevent someone out there. And we have on a regular basis, DUIs, we go to schools, there's someone out that lost half of the face and they're talking about this. They're missing an arm or two, and you know, and then they say, you know, this is what happened to me, I want everybody to listen and to look at me, because if you don't do or you don't stop drinking and driving,
Yeah.
you know,
And
this
every
is-
once in a
this is
while, I
me.
see that in the newspaper, that they spoke at some school.
I just finished talking to an IDU before I came here, and I was writing down as much information as I could because I had to go to a meeting. And I told him what kind of a meeting it was. He said, "Well, please share that information with that group." So just to give you some highlights of what this individual was telling me, he gave me like 20 different locations where they hang out. I'm talking intravenous drug users. He was saying that their drug right now of choice is heroin and cocaine that could be converted to black tar or heroin powder. He mentioned that most people in Laredo are ages 18 to 30. He said there's a representation between genders, 50% males, 50% females. He did say also that that they are interested in treatment, but in treatment that is medicine assistant for detox so that they can avoid withdrawals. Not just throw him in there, but again, this is him talking. I asked him, why did you start doing drugs? He mentioned most people is because peer pressure, family, it's a cycle, or that they just want to experiment. He also said that most of the people in Laredo that are doing drugs, that people that he's aware of, 70%, again, he was throwing numbers at me, are from Laredo, and 30% from Mexico. But most people from here, they also go into Mexico because the drug is less expensive and they go and shoot up over there. He also expressed that if the committee is interested, exactly what you were saying, that he's willing to get his group of intravenous drug users to come and talk to the panel, so y'all can get to hear from them why they started engaging in it.
Current or recovered?
No, they're current, yeah.
They're still using.
They're still using, but they said, because they do want to get off it, but somehow they can't, they're trying, but they don't know where to turn to. That the resources are not here in Laredo. So they're willing to put, and I'm willing to bring him if y'all agree, just so y'all can ask them questions. You know, I think we can learn a lot from them. They said, and he even said that many times government, political people, they do substance abuse awareness proclamations, they do health fairs, and they were saying, we don't go to those things, they're reaching the wrong people.
Right.
They really want to know about us, come under the bridges and learn what we're doing.
Go to Jarvis Plaza,
Go to
go to the bridges.
He even mentioned Jarvis Plaza, Bethany, Bruni Plaza. And
Under the bridges for
he named
sure.
several plazas, he gave me all the locations. So he says, if you really want to help us, come join us. You all see us when we drive up to when you drive up to a red stoplight. You see us there, but you won't raise up the window. You don't even talk to us. They said, we want help. We're here. Come talk to us.
And there's
So-
people that give needles, so they come and get needles from them.
Yes. It
So
it
did they
is.
go to you because either he's a client of yours or because they thought that they could get assistance?
No, we assist them. We help them. Of course, with whatever we can do for them, we do assist them. But we also do outreach work. We go out and look for them. We go talk to them. And again, and they do mention which agencies go out there and really go in and talk to them. We found several people dead under bridges as well.
Oh my God.
But we're out there looking for them, and he says that's what we need. We don't want just for people to be doing proclamations, health fairs.
Exactly.
We're not gonna go to those. They
No.
say, you all need to come to us where we're
Right.
at. So again, and again, they're willing to come in and talk to the group or whoever, and I can bring them in if
Like the
If
guy
you-
that's always there on Clark, he's always,
Yes.
oh my God, poor guy.
Yeah.
Well, I commend you for the unconventional outreach.
That's right.
And that's why I wanted to speak a little bit further with Ms. Mojica in reference to the kids that she sees, because if they're at the young age of 10 years old, are we getting them at that point? And if they're not, then what are we doing with SCAN? What are we doing with Border Region? What are we doing with Pillar and all the other organizations that are a resource and are of help and are still saying that there isn't enough help? My concern has always been that there's not a quality, rather more of a quantity of a service being provided. And so with that, that actually tells me that you're providing quality. So that I'm very impressed with.
Thank you.
And I just, it's an evaluation that we have to do through all the stakeholders and all the community resources that we have to evaluate and say, are you doing it for the money? Are
Exactly.
you doing it for selfish reasons?
To
Or are
really
you
help the
doing it
community.
because there is some assistance? Because if you just want them to come back and then come back and come back, then what are you doing?
course.
Then
Go
there
back to
isn't,
my office.
it's
Yeah.
just,
Revolving door.
there isn't any help. And I think that we need to tackle that. So I guess, bring it up to Dr. Gonzalez and see if he's okay with that, but I'd be welcome to.
We're
to bring
also
up-
willing to take any one of you to go do outreach with us, so you can also talk to them while they're actually shooting up. You're more to observe exactly what they're going and why they're doing it. And again, they don't want to do it, but they're in that predicament and they want help.
No, I had to go take my daughter, every time I was gonna take her to rehab, I had to go take her to a drug, to go look for it.
Yeah.
And they're looking and looking and looking and looking and,
But
and
it's
it's the
out
one
there.
with the blue bandana, no, it's the one with the red bandana, that one has this one and that one has that one, right outside of getting out of jail.
And
So I could
yeah.
take her to rehab, and I needed her to be detoxed. I couldn't have her drugged up and they go, ni modo, just make sure you bring her.
Yeah.
She gets over there to detox and guess what?
Yeah. And
So
it's
are
not
they
easy.
being linked like to medication assisted treatment, like with AMA? If they're
Yeah,
wanting,
wonderful.
Because that's the wonderful program that.
It is,
we
but,
work.
but unfortunately, we have a long waiting list. The state only allows us certain slots. And we have dedicated the majority of the slots. Right now, I have a shortage of counselors. I need 2 counselors.
So I have about 3 or 4 people, slots available. And we usually tend to reserve 2 slots, and this is for pregnant females that you just sent the last one.
Absolutely.
Our main priority right now is pregnant females,
Yeah.
HIV,
Mhm.
and people that have never been into the program.
Sure.
Because unfortunately, we do get a lot of people that come into the program with this preconceived ideas that they're gonna use it as a stepping stone. Well, and see, that's part of the reason why we don't do presentations for methadone. There's some very big stigma attached to methadone. Go to methadone, hey, it's just a stepping stone, you're giving them the drug. How are you helping them?
It's just changing one for the
Well,
other. A lot of people
I
think.
challenge anybody here who is not a counselor to go and try and motivate someone and to deal with all the problems that concern trying to motivate people like that. It is so hard. My brother personally was a Vietnam veteran who came back addicted to drugs. It's the reason why I left my law enforcement career and became a counselor. But I, like a lot of people, there was no gray in between. It was either white or black. You know, we were oil and water. But I finally caught on what addiction was all about. And now I'm the director for methadone. And in working with these clients, it doesn't matter how much we can say whatever, and it touches your heart and tears you apart because you want to help so bad. The reality is, if it's not in here, and if you never change people, places, or things, nothing's gonna change in your life.
That's right.
My brother overdosed last year after being clean for over 15 years. A Vietnam veteran that didn't get killed over there, but didn't come back all that well. Came back an addict from Vietnam. And struggled all his life. They see him met him. I mean, a lot of people here met him. And he wasn't using. He had been clean from one day to another. Oh, your brother's dead at the hospital. So, yeah, it's more of a, I'm starting to get up there, and I want for people to understand it's not an easy job. We can try, and I really feel like, for instance, I myself went to Al-Anon. I'm a participant at Al-Anon, because I try to educate myself as much as possible, to try and help people. It's not because of the pay, and all counselors here will tell you, it's not because of the pay, we're never gonna get rich. I could be earning a lot more somewhere else, but it's that willpower, that willingness, that burning desire to try and make a difference in someone's lives. And if we can manage to touch one life, then that's one life saved.
Let me just add that at Pillar.
And that's what we live for.
Thank you.
At Pillar, we're all a volunteer-driven agency, so no one gets paid at Pillar. But we're out there in the middle of the night, in the middle of the morning. You know, like you said, try to make a difference. And once again, if we really want to help this population, we need to hear from them.
Right.
I think we need to go outside this group,
That's right.
really bring them in and hear what their needs are, what the problems is. We may assume we know it all, but we don't. We need to hear from them directly.
Why don't we invite them, like, for example, individuals that are attending NA, AA, CA, all these different types of self-help groups, and have them develop their own panel in there, and and that way we can hear from them. And I think it's a great, because they actually represent an aftercare component as well, and during the whole process.
We need to hear from them.
Yes, I totally agree, having a point.
Right now, that my director, Diane Arns, she's down here from Houston, and then she was going to the mayor's, so that other meeting that was going. We're putting a PowerPoint presentation together. Jaime, you have seen the PowerPoint that I showed you.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the people getting there with open sores, with maggots and pus and everything. Everybody's seen that. And I was putting up a PowerPoint presentation, breaking up the different PowerPoints that we have, and putting statistics together. You know that out of all the clients that we have right now, we're at a 95% success rate as far as shooting up. I'm not saying that they're not drug addicts, I mean that they're clean or what have you, but once you're on methadone, it gives you a chance to find employment. 65% of them are employed.
Productive.
Yeah.
You know, we have a very low rate of people, but then we have our group of people that continue to use drugs, because once you start in methadone, you shoot up, you don't feel that rush. You do not feel the rush. So what do? they'll start using Xanax, they'll start using cocaine, they're still trying to reach that high. So what happens is that eventually, the medical director that we have will not, he's not gonna risk his license to be dispensing methadone to someone who is not willing to make the necessary changes. So we discharge them, we put them on administrative discharge. We work with them for about 6 months, and if within 6 months you cannot get your act together, then the next 3 months we put you on administrative discharge. You know, and sometimes it's just kind of like a wake-up call, wake up, hey, we're putting on discharge. We get them off, but you have to maintain clean. We ask them to get a job. If you're not getting a job, you have to go to school. We see them once a week, counseling. And within the first 6 weeks, it's once a week. After the first 6 weeks to up to a year, we see them twice a month. After 1 year, we see them once a month. Twice and then once. That's what the state requires from us. But we're always there as far as, you know, if there's a crisis or what have you. We link them up to SCAN. We do a lot of referrals to Border Region because the majority of them are, you know, they have co-occurring disorders. So it's a handful. It really is a handful. And
one of the greatest, the key things I think that you were mentioning, that if you don't have enough funds and so forth, because when individuals want help, the opportunity to get the help and access is what we really, it matters, right?
It does matter.
It can save lives, and especially if you know, they're wanting the help. And definitely medication-assisted treatment is a wonderful resource and a wonderful form of a way to get people to get better.
well, it you know, it decreases the criminals, you know, their criminality. It stops their infections, you know, they get a chance. They also get a chance to get a job, they reunify with their families. I mean, there's hope there.
And like you say, it is educating and eliminating the stigmas around the methadone, that it's really not using, it's because it doesn't, and so forth, so people can really accept that as a.
So I recently, starting this month, what I did is every Wednesday, I put up a flyer, and what I want is for the families to get involved.
Yeah.
I want for the families so they can distribute that Narcan that I showed you all last time. So that we can start distributing. I think that every family member, of course, you sign up for it or what have you, but so that they can have it a bit readily available.
Yeah, definitely.
That's assuming that they're gonna do it at the house, right? Which really pretty well, but I think everybody should have it. So I started doing that. So far, no family has gone to buy it. I just started this Monday.
Is that gonna be available just to the participants of Concilio Hispano and their family, or is it open to the community?
I want their families. I don't know about the community because we're getting them from Houston. I know we got a special grant, and they send me boxes of the Narcan, but it's in conjunction with Charles Thibodeau. Charles Thibodeau was giving the little vials. And I have given those to, even I've given them to some of the clients, hey, if you see someone, hey, use them.
Yeah.
Use them. But that's the easiest one, the nasal spray. So I don't know, Gracie, but you can call me and I'll ask about it.
I just wanted one last comment.
One more thing, and just, before you,
Sure.
Housekeeping, everybody knows, notice the camera. This hearing is gonna be displayed on public access channels, so it's a very good idea to, in describing your program, to identify yourself by name and your program, so can everybody that sees this later on, knows exactly what you're talking about, instead of saying,
Who was that?
what is that and where is it coming from, right? So what is your name?
Helen Stillman, I'm the program director for the methadone clinic.
And your name?
Arturo
You're from
Diaz.
Pillar, right?
Yes, the co-founder of Pillar, Arturo Diaz.
Arturo Diaz.
I just want to add, I've heard a lot about, and I do apologize, this is the first meeting I do attend, I couldn't be here prior. I've heard a lot today about services. Is this commission also going to look at prevention?
Right.
Because maybe that's,
Yes. But we need to list it also.
yeah, cause I didn't see it in the goals.
No, we didn't.
So that's why I'm asking,
We need
because
to-
if we don't do the prevention, we're gonna continue.
It's intermingled with public awareness. Public awareness and education
Okay.
is one of the tip of the spear of
Gotcha.
of the program. And with that, prevention,
Yeah.
it depends how you word it, but, we can actually include the word prevention with the purpose of prevention,
Okay.
public outreach, education,
Mhm.
because the subsequent effect will be preventing someone to start
Yeah.
using, but nonetheless,
Yeah.
it is one of those, and
Yeah,
of
'cause
course.
this individual that I spoke to said one way that might have worked in my family is, if you had looked at the history of our family, there's been drug use for generations.
Mhm.
So it's a cycle, so he said by working with the families that already have a substance use, that could also break some of the cycle of brothers or sisters or sons and daughters continuing that, so again, I go back to the same, I know I repeated it so many times, but I think we need to talk to this population, bring them in, and see what the needs are and go from there. I think we have a lot to learn from them.
One of the other things that I also implemented, Arturo, was I implemented a peer support, meaning the clients that have been trained that have takeouts and stuff like that, they lead on the groups on Wednesday.
Great.
Once I started implementing, anybody who was testing positive, I'm sorry, but you have to come to group. We don't charge for the medication, it's free, the state pays for it. So we do put some conditions. You know what, if you continue using, you have to come to group, and that's the one thing that they hate. They just want to in and out, no counseling, no nothing, just give me the medication and leave. So I started doing that, and the numbers started, I mean, I have a lot of people that are taking, numbers rose up. I mean, I'm trying to come out with different ideas so that I can have a harder impact as far as the usage is concerned. And it's been working,
Great.
it's been working, but I have also gotten several people that are on methadone that have been clean for years, and now they're the ones that are leading the group.
Great, awesome.
Ms. Tillman, let me commend you. Your testimonials and success stories, as well as Mr. Moncada here, are always welcome news.
Thank you.
And that's a template that we can start looking at. How were you so successful in the programs? So we can actually, implement or put it out there, and people really know
Right.
and educate the public where we're coming around. So yes, and that suggestion to bring someone that's out on the streets and educate us as a committee is well taken. It's up to the committee to vote on it, to accept the suggestion or not, and we'll put an agenda in subsequent meetings. Nonetheless,
Let me know and I can bring one or more than one.
definitely, and of course I'll network with Dr. Gonzalez because we have a couple of issues to handle. Madam Chair, it's up to you to move on with announcements, and
Yes.
it's already 7 p.m. and we
This
have.
this was our stakeholder
Recommendation.
recommendations, so that's done.
Yes.
Do we have any announcements from anyone? Anything coming up?
I just wanted to make a quick announcement. I do want to keep everybody updated as far as what the DWI court is doing, at least on our end. There are some things that are in the works. We're trying to do a mentors program where people who got out, we, instead of discharging them from the program and the grant completely, we keep them around on a volunteer basis. If they do want to stick around, they come back, they form a group, they become more involved with participants who may be struggling through the program, go with them to their meetings, they go with them to their sessions, they give commencement speeches at graduation, provide transportation, things of that sort. We're trying to make some t-shirts, get them more involved, make them feel a little bit more
You
empowered.
provide transportation?
We would have the mentor actually provide the transportation for the client. And then throughout the process, they would log in hours towards the program, and we give them some sort of an incentive back. This is another thing, it's in the works, it's just a process, but I did want to keep everyone involved as far as what we're doing. Maybe there'd be some ideas how we can get it going. We do have a graduation coming up for DWI Court on the 21st. It is an open invite. It's from 4 to 5, County Court Law number 2. We have 27 people who are going to be discharged from the program. So those are things that we're trying to do to kind of keep the people who are getting out of the program still involved in any way that they can. Also, they're trying to get together and form their own AA group within the program. So, I mean, we are seeing a little bit of a push with these guys trying to make a difference in their own little populations.
Yes.
I was really proud to see that they're moving.
Anything helps. I think peer support groups really do help a lot.
Especially from someone who's done it.
Yeah, people who walk the
Right.
walk.
Right.
All right, if that's the only announcement, then I would like to ask for an adjournment. Can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. All in favor? No one say a word. Thank you, motion is passed and it's adjourned.